Well, here we go with the next episode, episode 14 of I Will Never Forgive You podcast. Now, going straight into promotion, I literally just about less than 10 minutes ago finished recording the secret bonus out of time episode. Who knows when it'll drop? It's my backup episode of the podcast. It's my timeless episode. I called it the Doctor Who episode because it's out of time. I don't know. People on tier 3 of Patreon will have access to this. By the time you see this intro right here, it's on Patreon tier 3. Just $5 a month, or just if you just want to do it for the 1 month, that'll be there. That's not even the special video for October. It's just the video. It's an extra bonus. You can watch it now. At some point between now and the heat death of the universe, it will drop into place somewhere, some week when I'm too busy. I can't do the podcast. I'm too goddamn busy. So that will slide in there. So maybe episode 16. I'm supposed to be doing podcast 16. I'm just too busy. I got 4 gigs that week. I've got this other shit I'm trying to do. Tier 4 and 5 special requests and stuff I'm doing. I just don't have time to do the podcast. I just drop in the bonus out of time podcast right in that spot. Pick up the topic that got voted on for the next time. Just carry that forward. Then all I have to do is record a Q&A, the feedback video. That still has to be done. But at least the main part, the hard part, the most grinding work, because I'm just in the Q&A, I'm reacting to people. That's easy. The real grind is doing the podcast because I'm talking by myself with nothing to react off of for 90 minutes or more. So the actual podcast is the hard part. That's done. So if this, however long this is going to be, probably somewhere around 90 minutes or less. Maybe more if I get verbose. Probably not because I don't have extra anime to talk about, or extra animation. That tends to make things take longer. So probably not. But you never know. If this ain't enough for you, and you don't want to wait 2 weeks for more podcasty goodness, go over to Patreon, sign up for tier 3, and you can get a whole nother podcast right then there. Now, you are screwing yourself in the future, which is, you can't, whenever this drops in, you'd be like, oh shit, I already watched that one. I already heard that one. But then maybe it'll have been 4 months. We don't know. I have no idea how long it's going to take. So then you can just, it'll be new to you again. Because it's, I kept the topics pretty timeless. Everything I talked about in that podcast, it's going to end up being about an hour and 20 minutes probably, once I edit it down. Everything I talked about, pretty timeless. So it stands the test of time. You can watch it again, listen to it again in 4 months. You'll be fine. So, but hey, if you're impatient, you want more content, more of me, God knows what you'd want to. I talk enough as it is. But hey, if you want more, it's over on Patreon. So that's my promotion. Also, I'm doing a special video. This video for October is probably going to be about old school, how manga actually got started. What are some of the first anime out there? Yeah, the godfather of anime, essentially. I can't pronounce his name, but I'm already starting to research him and look into him. I'll be doing some special videos on him. So that'll be up there sometime later in the month. But right now, as you hear this, right now, this moment, you can have access to a secret hidden away in the Time Vault podcast. So, good shit. All right. Moving on to anime episode highlight. Garden of Sinners. Now, this is specifically episode 4 because this is what this is. We're highlighting a specific episode of an anime. But really, the entire series has been fantastic. They're talking, it's an out-of-time series. I've seen 4 episodes. There's 8 total episodes. There may be a couple other bonus episodes after that, I think I've been told. But for now, we just got the 4. It's an out-of-time story, and we're bouncing back and forth between 1995 and 1998. We may be going further in the future, but they're telling, okay, this happens. You're seeing cause before effect, or you're seeing effect before cause. This is why they're this way. Okay, now let's explain how they got there. That kind of shit. There's a lot of similarities between episode 1 and episode 4 in that in time they take place only a few weeks apart. They both happen in the summer of 1998, but episode 4 just gives you so much more context, and it's just such an interesting villain. And the fact she was assaulted and she's getting vengeance, unholy, ungodly vengeance on these assholes who assaulted her. It was basically, it was like that Jodie Foster movie. There's a bunch of them in like a pool hall or something. I think it was on a pool table. So They did some heinous shit and they deserve what they got, and she delivered. And she could twist, and it was all I could do. I really, really, because her power is to twist people. Like, she can twist their arms off, she can twist their legs off, she'll twist their head off. She even says twist, and that gives the power, right? It was everything. I had to really hold myself back at gunpoint, essentially, to keep myself from doing a short with Chubby Checkers the twist and showing footage from this. I so badly wanted to do it, but it felt like a hack thing. It's just so obvious. It was specifically going to be a sequel song. Let's twist again. Let's twist again like we did last summer. You know, it's basically going to be a sequel to that. You know, it was going to be that version of it because I like that version better than the original. Plus, he admits in the song he's just cashing in. You know, he wants another hit, and it was a hit. Like, it's one of the only times I've ever done that where it's actually another hit. Let's capitalize on the first song, and it was actually a hit. Like, there was a sequel to The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and it bombed. And there's a sequel to that one song where it's basically a story song where, like, he goes into a bar, and he's a hippie, and this is in the 60s or whatever, and it's a southern bar, so he's afraid they're going to whip his ass because they found out he's hippie because he has long hair, and he talks his way out of it, and then he runs, and he had a flat tire, and then he gets in the car, and chases him around the parking lot 3 times, and he leaves, right? That guy did a sequel to that song, which bombed. Like, the sequel songs never work. But in this particular case, Chubby Checker actually hit on a sequel song, which is good, because I don't think he did any other hits for the rest of his life. So I'm glad he was able to, you know, drink the milk twice. Have his cake and eat it too, right? But yeah, it felt like it would have been a hack job to put the footage of this episode with her twisting people to the Chubby Checker song. So I didn't do it. So if you ever wonder, do I ever restrain myself? Because sometimes I do some of these shorts and people, Alice has asked me, what the hell are you doing? Other people ask me, what the hell are you doing? I'm trying to amuse myself. That's what I'm doing. Everything, it's the same reason I do anything I do, to entertain me. Everything I do is to entertain myself. So if I entertain other people, great, but my first task is to entertain myself. This would entertain me, but this felt so hacky and lame and cheesy. I was like, okay, it's just too on the nose. So I didn't do it. But I wanted to so bad. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, it's a great episode. It's a really deep mystery box series. And I remember after I watched the first episode, I went to Reddit to the first episode, because you can go to specific episodes that won't spoil future episodes. And it'll be old. It'll be like from like however many years ago, 6 years ago, whatever. It'll be a locked Reddit thread, but it's still there. You can still read it. And so I go check it out, and people are complaining about, yeah, you know, there's basically 3 generic characters. There's the standard guy. There's impassive woman who's mysterious, and we can't really read her. You know, we don't know what her motivations are. And then there's the other woman who just says a bunch of weird shit, obtuse, indecipherable crap. Like, she gives a bunch of speeches that don't make any sense. And that was their synopsis of the series after seeing the first episode. And every point they made was understandable, but it was a radical interpretation. It was a very unfair interpretation summary of what was actually happening in that episode. I was annoyed. But people were complaining that it was like a story told out of chronology and that they didn't like it. But, like, I loved it. I loved the pilot, and now that I've seen up to episode 4 as I speak, I really love it. I love this show a lot. And this is where the show's working on all cylinders at this point. Because now you have enough of the backstory filled in from the first 3 episodes told out of chronology. You're starting to fill in all the pieces. And it feels like the next episode or 2 are going to be like, we're going to push the boundary of the future and finally see what happens after, like, in the future. Because the furthest we've gone in the future was August of 1998. And episode 4 takes place in July 1998. So it connects up to what happened in the first episode. So now it feels like they've pretty much everything, all the backstory's been filled in over these first 4 episodes. Maybe there may be one missing piece they talk about later. I think episode 8 talks about it's a part 2 to the part 1, which was episode 2, right? And so if I'm really excited to watch the next couple episodes, because I think they're going to push the boundary of what we're going to see. What happens next? I'm always curious what happens next. When the first movie ends, you always want to know what happens next, but then a lot of times you never find out. Like, what happens in Inception? We're never going to know, because they're never going to do Inception 2. But I'd love to know. But, the director is too much of a coward. Because whatever you show in Inception 2 is going to prove what happened in the end of Inception 1. And the director is a coward. He's not going to do it. Anyway. Yeah, great episode. Really enjoyed it. And so that's my anime episode highlight of the week. So, haven't finished any anime. It's only been 2 weeks, so that makes sense. So let's move to our main topic. Luffy the War Criminal. Did not think this was going to win. I was just being an asshole. But there's some meat on this bone. Because the first thing we talk about is collateral damage. And they first started addressing this, I think it was Man of Steel. When Superman and Zod have this fight in downtown New York City or Metropolis or whatever the hell it is. And there's so much collateral damage, so many buildings are destroyed, and they don't address it in the movie. Then they come back and address it later. Apparently Batman was there, and he's pissed off that, I haven't seen these movies, but I've seen enough analysis and clips and stuff to get the gist of it. He was there, and he sees how much destruction you get in. And there was a thing that, there's a YouTube series a while back. I don't think they do it anymore. Could have been a blog series, I can't remember. But they used to, I think it started with the first Avengers movie. And they started doing it regularly with these superhero movies where they just tear up cities and tear up countries and stuff. They start calculating the monetary amount of damage that would have happened. And what would it take to rebuild the city and all that shit. And it's weird because a lot of these numbers don't seem real, and I don't think they are real. Like, we even see it in real life where it's like, okay, this was the monetary damage of Hurricane Katrina. Or we talk about the Twin Towers, right? Like, okay, so those were destroyed. So you could say, when you assign a monetary value to those buildings being destroyed, what are we talking about there? They didn't rebuild the buildings. So you're not talking about the cost of making those two buildings again. So what are you talking about here? Are you talking about what they costed? Like if I was to go and try to buy those two buildings on September 10th, 2001, what would it have cost me to buy those buildings? Is that what you're talking about? So if you say that caused $10 billion of damage, are you saying it would have cost me $10 billion to buy those two buildings outright on September 10th? And because of that, that's how much damage is done. Is that what you're saying? Well, that doesn't mean anything because the buildings weren't rebuilt. So it didn't cost that much. That money is gone. And whatever it cost to originally build the buildings back in the 60s or whatever, those people who built the buildings made their money back. Like they made their money back. So, like, whoever built it and owned those buildings in rent has made their money back 1,000,000 times over since they were first built. So, they don't deserve to be given the amount of money that those buildings cost to make. Now, what you could do is if they were, the people that owned the buildings, they were making a certain amount of rent per month based on all the companies that had rented office space in those two buildings. And that value probably would be in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars per month. Think about how much, what it costs to rent a place, office space, in Manhattan or whatever, wherever that was, in New York City. And then how many floors they have, and then you got two buildings. Like, God knows what they were making. But they were making a shit ton of rent. So are we talking about the value of that rent for the rest of the time? Like, where are you getting your numbers? See, that's what I'm asking. Like, we don't, like, when they say, okay, that was $20 billion or $30 billion of damage, where are you getting your numbers? Or are you talking about what it would cost to rebuild, even though they did rebuild it? Are you talking about what they lost in rent? Are you talking about the original cost to make it? We don't know where they're getting those numbers. And so I always question this shit. It just feels arbitrary. Now, like, if they were to tell, okay, this is the data set, and then walk me through it, okay, like, fine, okay, you're right. Like, they're much smarter mathematically than I am. I'm not saying they're idiots. I'm just saying I might debate the numbers if you're talking about what it would have cost to rebuild those buildings. I'm going to debate that because you didn't rebuild. So they didn't do that. They built a monument, and that's it. They've never done anything. Like, there was talk for a while of rebuilding them. Never happened. It's never going to happen. So you can't use that. You can use any other criteria you want. You can't use the criteria of rebuilding the building. So that's a special case. Most of the time they rebuild. Any of the buildings and residences or whatever that got destroyed during Hurricane Katrina, I'm sure were rebuilt, and so you can attach a monetary cost to that. What did it cost to rebuild Berlin after World War II? That's equivalent to what we're talking about with these superheroes destroying these cities. But whatever the case, they talk about superheroes. These superhero movies come out. Then the article will come out. This is what it would have cost. This is how much damage they did in the first Avengers movie. This is how much damage they did in New York City fighting the aliens. Well, that's a little disingenuous because the aliens were there. You couldn't take the fight anywhere else. They were there. That's where the hole was. You had to fight them there. And if you hadn't, the aliens would have sure as hell done a hell of a lot more damage than the superheroes did. So it's disingenuous, but whatever. You can talk about that. So then the second Avengers movie was that was the one where they dropped. Yeah, that was Age of Ultron. So they had a city that was brought up in the air and then they dropped it back down. And they didn't do that. The bad guy did, but you can blame them for that. So the article can come out. This much damage happened, and they weren't trying to save civilians. They were just trying to fight the bad guy. Now, in the first Avengers movie, you clearly see them trying to help civilians. They talk about it. Captain America literally gives orders, here's how we can save civilians. And they don't really talk about minimizing damage, but like, what can you do? You're being invaded by aliens. In the second movie, it wasn't their fault. And they did try to save people. And they did ended up saving the people that were stuck on that floating city. Because they brought in their helicarrier and everybody was able to get on there and leave, right? So they did that. But probably the best example of this is Man of Steel. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I've seen a lot about it. I've seen opinions, and I kind of get the gist of it. I don't know the specific situation, but it does feel like he could have taken Zod somewhere else to fight. He could have enticed him somewhere. I don't know who had the initiative. Like, was Zod after Superman, or was Superman after Zod? Like, if Superman's after Zod and Zod's staying in the middle of New York City and he ain't moving, it's hard to take that fight anywhere else. But I don't know who had the initiative, so I don't really know all the answers here. But I will say that seems like the best use case here. He fought him right here. We got the laser beams going out, cutting buildings in half and shit. Some of that was Zod, some of that was Superman. I can see it in my head from the clips I've seen. So, a lot of damage done. You can assign a number value to it, 7 billion or whatever. That's what it takes to rebuild these buildings, which you probably will rebuild in this case. So, that was kind of the start of this idea of collateral damage. It has become more in the public consciousness and the public zeitgeist, probably since Man of Steel, whenever it was that came out. I do remember them talking about it in the first Avengers movie, so we can say the last 13 years. People have talked about it. I don't think the author of One Piece was concerned about this. I don't know if he cares now. I've seen no evidence in the anime so far that he gives a shit about everywhere Luffy goes, the island gets destroyed and the city gets destroyed. We hashed this up in the comments. I'm going to go to the comments here in a minute. We hashed it out in the comments of when I ran a poll and talked about that. But it doesn't matter if Luffy punched the building and that's why the building collapsed, or if bad guy punched the building trying to get to Luffy. It's still Luffy's fault. He's still there. Luffy's a good guy, right? So it's not his fault, it's his responsibility. Luffy doesn't give a shit where he fights. He doesn't give a shit what damage he does. So even though he didn't punch that building, he would have. He don't care that it happened. You never see him extend his big ass hand to lift up a building and let some small fry leave. Now, if it's one of his crew members, if it's somebody he met and he likes them, he will try to save them, and he has many times in the past. I've never, to my knowledge that I remember, seen him. There's some small fries in his house. The house gets turned upside down. Seeing him lift it up to let them out and let them go. Now, I don't think he would put a hand up to stop them from leaving. He cares if they live or die. He doesn't think about whether or not they're going to live or die. He doesn't think to look for them. He cares about the fight. He's here to fight. That's his solution to everything, by the way, fighting. He's never going to try to negotiate some shit. He's not going to try to talk some shit out. He just wants to fight people. That's what he does. He doesn't care, literally doesn't care who lives or dies around him, unless they're his crewmates. He's kind of like a psychopath in that way. Like the psychopath will care about their pets, their people, their circle, to a limited degree. Now Luffy's not literally a psychopath. I'm just using this as an example. A psychopath will have a circle of people. These are the people I need to survive. This person provides this person provides that, this person, like, I need these people, so I'll do what I can to keep them around. Like, make sure they don't get run over, make sure nobody's harassing them and they're safe and happy and whatever, so that they can continue to service me. So that's kind of Luffy with this crew. He cares about his crew, he deeply cares about his crew, but don't give a shit about nobody else. And this whole pirate mentality, he has literally even said, and he will steal food off people's plates. That's a war crime in and of itself. But he has literally said, the reason why he wants to be a pirate, instead of something else, some kind of good person, is a pirate doesn't have to share their food. He has said this. He used this example. They don't have to share their food. A good guy has to share their food. A good guy has to think about somebody besides themselves. Luffy doesn't. He will take the food off your plate in a heartbeat, man. He don't give a shit. He will definitely drop a building on you and not think about it if you're not a member of his crew. He don't care, man. So, again, I don't think he would intentionally hurt anybody. Like, you'll never convince me of that. But I don't think it occurs to him to think about, if I punch this building, what's going to happen to those people running the street behind it? I don't think that ever occurs to him. He's only worried about beating this person's ass. That's all he cares about. So that being the case, and as we talked about, we'll go to the comments now, but people are making case, well, this one wasn't his fault, and that one wasn't his fault, and this one wasn't his fault. He doesn't give a shit about collateral damage, so it's all his fault, right? It can't be a coincidence that everywhere Luffy goes, buildings collapse, cities get destroyed, and islands are leveled. That's just the way he rolls, man. That's the only way he knows. It's what he does. He's basically got godlike powers now. Now he's making everything rubber and bounce. Does he care that the rubber bouncy house falls on people? If he knew, he would care. But he doesn't think about it. And he doesn't know, so he doesn't care. He has no curiosity. So he has no inclination to make sure everybody's safe before he lets loose. Before he goes off. All he cares about is his crew members. So, war crime number one, collateral damage. Like, 100%. Now, let's go to these comments. I get a little pushback here. So, my poll was, which island or city-state did Luffy destroy the most? And I had 4 options. I could have given a lot more options, but I had 4. Dressrosa got 74%. He leveled that place. Egghead got 15%. Now, we're not through with that story, but I put that on there, so fair enough. Water 7 got 7%, and Skypiea got 4%. Okay, so here's the comment. This is Hunterstone. Dressrosa is mostly the birdcage, and Peaky, giant guy made out of stone. Yeah, believe it or not, I actually remember Pika's name, but I appreciate the fact that you made sure to use the nickname that I know him by, so I would remember him. HIG does this with Black Hoodie. I call Emu, or whatever the hell his name is, I can't pronounce, the big bad of One Piece. I call him Black Hoodie because he wears a black hoodie. So that's how I remember him. Where HIG knows every single iteration of his name that's ever been stated on camera. But we'll use Black Hoodie just to make sure I understand what he's talking about. I think that's very considerate of you, and I appreciate that. And this, again, in this case, guy made of stone. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Why did Dickhead, what the hell is his name? Flamingo? Why did he create the birdcage and start destroying the island? There was a specific reason, right? You remember what it was? I mean, you probably remember what it was. It's because of Luffy. He was there. It's because of him, because he wants to fight. And, by the way, because he didn't finish the fight quick enough. He was screwing around. Bouncing around and shit, and then ran out of energy. If he had just handled his business and not been screwing around so much, it wouldn't have come to that. So, like I know the evil bad guy is the person here, but there's a pattern. Everywhere he goes, shit gets destroyed. After a certain amount of time, maybe it's you, man. If you've been in 15 relationships in your life, and every single person in every single one of those relationships that you've been in, they all cheat on you. You never cheat on them, but every single one of them cheats on you. Maybe it's you. There's got to be a common denominator. Either something you do is causing everybody to cheat. Maybe your sex game is trash, so they're compelled to cheat. Or maybe you treat people like shit so that they want to cheat on you and get revenge. Or maybe you're just so naive that they can't help but take advantage of you. I don't know. Or, more likely, you just have a certain type of person you're attracted to, which is cheaters. But 15 people, it's you. I'm sorry, man. I hate to break this to you. It's you. If every employee you've ever had steals from the cash register, it's you. Like, you're doing something wrong. Like, I don't like to blame the victim here. It's you. Like, every single goddamn place this dude goes to, every single place gets destroyed. It's him. Like, can we create a specific cause and effect, causal relationship in every single case? You can take it point by point, and he does here, and I'm going to go down this comment. You can take it point by point. Okay, this is why it's not Luffy's fault here. This is why it's not Luffy's fault here. This is why it's not Luffy's fault here. He's always around, man. Like, you ain't... you continue with this stealing example. Say, like, you have you're at, like, McDonald's or something, right? And you got the register on the right, and there's somebody with the register on the left, okay? And you work here for a long time. Every single person that works at left register ends up stealing from the register. It's never you. It's always them. But it's a different person every time. It's been like 12 people in a row. Every single one of them is stealing from the register. You're just standing there. Well, at some point, the boss will be like, what the hell's going on here, man? This never happened before you showed up. Why is they always stealing shit? So they're going to start thinking, well, maybe you're doing it and blaming it on them. Like, it can't be all of them. At some point, you just being in the vicinity is enough. Like, we're not holding a trial here. Well, we are. We're trying him as a war criminal. But I don't care about preponderance of the evidence at some point. At some point, there's a mountain of coincidence that we just can't overlook anymore, man. We can't see over the top of the mountain anymore. You're always around, man. You're always around. Something is up. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. It's witchcraft. It's demonology. Something is going on. Something is happening because you're always effing around. Like, you can't, at some point you can't shower that stink off, man. The hell? What is going on? Why are you always around? Like, he's always there in the middle of the shit. And every city and island gets destroyed. He's always there. Like, even the other Straw Hats are not always there. Like, half of them were not in Whole Cake Island. And then half of them weren't in, what was it? I think it was like Dressrosa was half, and Whole Cake Island was half, right? And it was a different half each time, right? So, just two examples. We didn't have half of them for Dressrosa, and we didn't have half of them for Whole Cake Island. But Luffy was the same. He was in both places, and both places got smashed. And every single time it's not his fault, man. But, sooner or later, like, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, you're just guilty by association at some point. All right, so I'm going to guess you mean Ennis Lobby rather than Water 7. Let me look that up. Ennis Lobby was a world government establishment located on a paradise island where night never fell. Never seen that before in my life. The hell are you talking about? It, along with Imperial Down and Marineford, comprised of three major government strongholds, triangulating the Terra Current via the Gates of Justice. Okay, I do remember the Gates of Justice. I guess. Yeah, I mean, but I thought Water 7 got destroyed, right? Like, I remember, was it the storm? I remember there's water all over the place, and buildings were falling and shit. There was a fire, like the mansion burned down or some shit. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of running together. So I mean, I'll trust your memory over mine. But I thought he got wrecked. But I'll take your word for it. It was mostly a team effort. A Buster Call did most of it. Zoro chopped up an entire tower in half. Chopper used Monster Point for the first time, so probably caused some of the damage. Luffy's damage is mostly the use of Gear 3, and I don't think he did anything huge. He was there. I mean, you're making good points here. I'm just saying. Like, clearly, I don't remember everything too well. So, we'll move on. But I'm just saying, he was there. Skypiea. The only damage I could think of was Emu's Lightning Storm. I don't remember Luffy doing any damage. You could be right on that one. Egghead, again, well, that's not really finished. I wish I had done other options here. That's probably why this, Water 7 and Skypiea got very few votes. Although they did get votes, though. Somebody voted for this. Somebody believes in me. But I guess I should have put different options there. But again, Egghead, again, Buster Call, and that's just a lot of powerful people on the island doing a lot of damage. Guess who was there, though? And when he does fight, he doesn't care about the damage. Like, he throws Spider Geezer into a building. Did he know who was in that building? Did he care? Did he know who was on the sidewalk outside the building on the other side when he threw Spider Geezer into that building? No. He didn't know that, and he doesn't care. Kind of what I'm saying. And yes, there's, like I said, there's all this other, it's always somebody else, right? Like, it's always somebody else. Like, again, to use another relationship analogy, it's like the person, like, you have a friend, and so you've known them for a long time, 20, 30 years, and they've had 8 bad breakups. It's always the other person's fault. Every single time. And each time, as they tell you the story, it makes complete sense. Yeah, it was their fault. It wasn't your fault. As they tell it to you, it makes 100% sense. But the combined sum total, the big picture view of the last 30 years, how is it always the other person's fault? Like, your ass is perfect. You ain't never done nothing wrong, right? Like, that's what starts to dawn on you after a while, right? We all have that one friend who's like that. That's kind of what this is feeling like, man. Like, big picture. We're talking big picture. Like, you want to zoom in on any one thing. Like I said, each one of these 8 relationships, as they described it to you as it was falling apart, makes total sense. Yeah, you should get out of that. That's a terrible relationship. But what about when you look at everything, right? Like, it can't always be the other person's fault. I don't know. I mean, it's just something to think about. My answer is Fishman Island. This is one of the ones I should have put on the poll, like I said. I guess I should have Googled which islands has Luffy destroyed the most. Because, again, I'm looking big picture. My problem was trying to zoom in on things. And I don't think that's how we handle this situation. I think the way we have this conversation is we talk big picture. We talk everything. We talk 30 years of, our lived experience watching this shit. When Noah, the giant ship, is coming down on the island, Luffy's first tactic was to wreck the ship into smaller pieces. I'm pretty sure he had a lot of debris damage the island. Yep. Dumbass. Yeah, it just the way he converts around and just, no regard for collateral damage. I think that's the biggest thing. Is like, I don't think it even occurs. I think if somebody could sit him down and talk to him, if he didn't get bored with the conversation in 2 minutes, but have a real heart-to-heart with him, I think he'd be shocked and appalled at the idea he's hurting anybody, right? But I think somebody has to tell him that. Like, I don't think he takes notice. And when I say he doesn't give a shit, I mean it doesn't occur to him to give a shit. It doesn't occur to him to think about it. Hey, what are possible consequences for my actions? Never crosses his mind. Not for a second. My runner-up is Thriller Bark, only if you count Luffy's shadow while he was in the giant oars. Luffy's shadow is a part of Luffy, so Luffy did have a part to play in oars damage. Well, and again, it's like that's another good... that's basically... What are we talking about here? Is it the id that is not in check? That's like basically the caveman of our personality. The all impulse. I can't remember. You got the id and the ego and the super ego and all that. I can't remember. Whichever part is dark impulses with no control whatsoever, no oversight. That's Luffy's shadow, right? But and again, one thing we can say about Thriller Bark is I don't think there's any innocent civilians anywhere, right? Other than the zombies who are already dead and probably just need to be released to the afterlife. Because they seem to retain their soul. Well, not really their soul, because they're zombies. Well, wait a minute. The zombie was somebody else's soul put in the body, right? Okay. And then when the zombie's body is destroyed, that soul goes back to the original person that it belonged to. Okay. So, yeah, I don't think there was a single innocent person who is harmed in Thriller Bark because there was no innocent people on the island. There's either the bad guys or there's the slaves who are the zombies with the souls, right? And when the zombie body's destroyed, the soul goes back, or whatever. Like when he was defeated, the soul went back to everybody. So, ironically, Thriller Bark is the only one because what I'm talking about here is civilian damage. That's a war crime. If you go to an enemy stronghold and there's enemy soldiers there and there's no civilians and you destroy the enemy stronghold, that's not a war crime. That's not, unless they surrendered, I guess it's a war crime. But destroying an enemy fortification with just enemy there and no civilians, no innocent people, is not a war crime. Thriller Bark, ironically, considering how much damage you did there, is the one thing we can't charge him with. Because there was no civilians there. It's just all evil people. People who signed up to do evil shit, or the slaves. So, which are permanently harmed by being killed. So, that's the one we can let him off of. I think you're just trying to blame Luffy on any damage caused no matter who did it. Bingo. You're right. I am. He's the one common denominator other than the island that was destroyed from the sky with the eyes in the clouds, right? Other than that island, every other city or island we've seen get destroyed, Luffy was there. Guilt by association. So, there's a common denominator here, man. He has a debilitating effect on other people's self-control around him, good guys and bad guys. His teammates, he geeks them up, and they want to destroy shit because he's destroying shit, so they're not thinking about anything yet either. He geeks them up. He gets them excited. He has them not thinking about consequences. And he has a bad effect. I guess it's like, like every mom thinks that their kid's friend is the one that has a bad effect. Like, they're going to turn my kid into a juvenile delinquent. Like, he's a good kid, but they're a bad influence. This other friend that lives across the street, they're a bad influence. Well, the mom across the street's saying the same thing about your kid. Which is it? Who's the bad influence here, right? Can't be both of them. Maybe it is. Maybe your kid actually is a bad influence. Like the mom will never admit it, right? Like, think you're like the mom who won't admit that your kid is the bad influence on everybody else. Luffy is a bad influence on everybody around him, good guy and bad guy. He makes the bad guys want to destroy shit, like, Da Flamingo. He makes the good guys, his teammates, want to destroy shit to impress him, and just because, hey, that looks fun. Look at Luffy destroy the house over there. Boy, that looks fun. Let me chop this house in half. Chopper, one of the sweetest, kindest people in the world. You're telling me he's taking this shit and he's destroying shit. Where was it? Yeah, that was in his lobby. Chopper used a monster point for the first time and he's rampaging around and he's destroying shit. Does he do that if Luffy never exists? You think Chopper's going around crushing shit and making himself really big so he can stop people? He wants to be a doctor, man. He wants to solve every illness and every ailment. He wants to be in a laboratory with his beakers and got the little fire going on and he's like doing this and doing that and putting a pinch of this in there and putting a drop of that in there, and he's creating cures, man, and vaccines and, helping people. Never in a million years would he want to be out there rampaging, stomping on buildings, knocking over castles, stepping on people. He doesn't want to do that. Gee, I wonder who convinced him to become a destroyer instead of a savior. We know who the bad influence is. So, I think if we had an objective court, now I'm not objective, you're not objective, we're talking about an objective court here. It would be racketeering is what they would get him on. They wouldn't get him on Class A felony, destruction of property, and collateral damage, and causing the deaths of hundreds of people when these buildings fall down. You wouldn't be able to get him on the Class A felony. Because I don't think we have his hand in the cookie jar. I don't think we have a smoking gun right here, right? I don't think there's been a single instance where he came in guns blazing, knocking shit over off the rip, right? I don't think that's really happened. But man, does he just, like, everywhere he is, shit just gets knocked over. So racketeering, right? Like, he's the cause. He's just not the perpetrator, right? In most cases. Now, sometimes he is. He's swinging his arm around, especially Eggland. Like, he has knocked some buildings over in Eggland. I've been watching that shit right now, man. Also, I thought you weren't watching Eggland, the story arc. So, I don't know what's up with that. So, you don't know what's been getting destroyed or not. But, here's the thing. I think it's like a racketeering charge. If we were to put him up in court on everything, it'd be more the delirious influence he has on good people and bad people. He brings out the worst in everybody. He brings out the showboating, hey, I'm gonna save people, but let me do it by taking my sword and knocking this tower over, out of the good guys. And he really, really pisses off the bad guys where they just want to destroy it. Let me get this bird cage up here and just rip everything to shreds. I'll show this son of a bitch. Or like the elders, let's all just go full ham. Let's turn into all kinds of eldritch monstrosities, into the mouth of madness ass creatures, and just be terrorizing, man. Let's just knock it all down. Like, we're trying to buster call this shit anyway, so we might as well just stomp it out ourselves, right? So, do they call the buster call on Eggland if Luffy is never there? No. Well, actually, I think that was actually because he was worried about the people there having any knowledge that Vegapunk had found out. So that could actually be completely unrelated to Luffy, the Buster Call. But I'm trying to remember the sequence here. When he actually calls it, I don't think Luffy has showed up yet. Yeah, I think this is one time we can let Luffy off the Buster Call. But the rampaging, the terrorizing, after Luffy shows up and we're just knocking buildings, like I literally watched him put Spider Geezer into a building, man. There could have been people in there. Now, most of the island had been evacuated by this point. Did Luffy know that? No, I don't think he did. He didn't know they'd been evacuated. He had no idea. He don't give a shit. He doesn't think to ask. He doesn't think to question. So, man, I don't know, man. I think it's possible that our favorite character, our beloved Luffy, is an asshole. Like, he's an asshole who doesn't think about the consequences of actions. I think we have been fooled by the fact that he cares about his teammates. And that's what we really see the most. Because we see him interacting with his teammates. Now, we've never seen him be mean or rude to any stranger. He's never met a stranger he didn't turn into a friend unless they're a bad guy. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, the people he's met, the guest star of the arc, their family, and his crewmates, he cares deeply about them. He'll do anything for them. He'll protect them. If you make them cry, he will kick your ass if you make one of his friends cry. He will protect them. That's the whole point of all of his training, is he wants to protect the people he cares about. That's his mission statement in life. That's what he wants to do. But if that's all we see, that's what we think he is. What we're not thinking about, because they're small fries with no names. I've even had people, Klaus told me, who cares about the small fries? He literally said that. He's another Luffy. He literally said, who cares about the small fries? Nobody cares about them. In universe or out. We got the elders calling them insects. We got Luffy knocking buildings on top of them. Nobody gives a damn. Zoro chopping shit up. Sanji with his flame feet. If they're women, he might care. That's about it. Chopper rampaging around. You ain't curing shit when you're 100 feet tall, stomping on buildings, not knowing if people are in them. You were a doctor, man. What happened? We don't have the Hippocratic Oath. It's the hypocrisy oath in this timeline. The hell, man. There is a common denominator here, man. I'm telling you. Luffy. Guilt by association. Why is it every time we look at a destroyed town, you're standing in the middle of it, man? Right there in the middle. Probably grinning and making jokes. Every goddamn time. Except for, with one exception, when they just they crossed out an island from the map. Other than that, every other goddamn time we've seen an island be destroyed, or we've seen a city be destroyed, guess who's there? You tell me that's a coincidence every goddamn time. I don't know, man. I don't know. So, that's my case. Love to hash out in the comments. Like I said, that wasn't a good poll. I should have did more research. It was probably the middle of the night. I won't make excuses, but you know, I should have did more research on it, specifically the most destroyed places he's been to. But I have only watched it once, you know, so like, you know, I'm not big on the details. But I think this is a conversation to be had from big picture perspective. Let's stand up on top of the mountaintop and look down and look at everything. Look at the entire series from the beginning to the end. What was the first place to get trashed? Was it Sanji's restaurant? First place he goes. The first place he goes outside like, that fort where Zoro was tied up. Did they ever explain how he got captured? Isn't Zoro a badass? How the hell did he get captured? I don't think they ever explained that. It's going way back. I'm just saying. Why is he tied up? He's a badass. Did they say he was drunk? Maybe he was drunk and he was passed out and that's how they got him. I can't remember. But that place got trashed. The restaurant gets trashed. The Arlong Mansion or whatever gets trashed. Now, we don't really care about that one because they're all bad guys. But it gets trashed. Every day. Alabaster, trashed. Every damn place he goes, man. So, that's my case. But we can hash out in the comments. So, I'm just saying, like, you know, don't zoom in. We're having a big picture conversation. Big picture. Look at everything. Everything. And he's always there, man. There ain't no damn coincidence. Alright, moving on. Let's talk about other animation. Marvel Zombies. Now, I've only watched half of it. It's a 4-episode miniseries. I've seen the first 2 episodes. I'm doing reactions to them. I don't know. I'm going to release them sometime over October on the main channel, the anime channel. Because it just goes along. I'm going to be trying to do a lot of different scary shit. So, but it's going to be as I have time, you know, which I don't have much of. So, probably do the other 2 episodes this week at some point, and then release the forum as full reactions just on, you know, main channel. Yeah, I guess the anime is my main channel now because it's got more subscribers. It's getting regular updates. I do want to do stuff with the Drunk channel at some point. I don't know. Maybe October is a good time to do that. Do a couple of movies over there. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, with Marvel Zombies, it's not exactly what I expected. Now, I haven't seen much of the What If. But I saw the very first episode of the What If, and I think I saw the zombie episode of season 1 of What If. And I don't know if this is tied in with that. Like, if I should have watched the What If. Maybe there's been 2 seasons of What If. And maybe there was a zombie episode in each season. Maybe that would explain a little bit more what the hell's going on. Because they just kind of jump into it. And now that I think about it, maybe I should go back and rewatch those before I do the rest of the miniseries. But anyway, it's a little weird. Like, it's just, it seems a little unfocused. Now, I said I've only seen 2 episodes. It's hard to judge 2 out of 4. But I am 50% of the way through. And you got this device, and, you know, they're going to use it to contact the Nova Corps, and the Nova Corps is going to come to Earth and cure all their problems. Okay, great. But I think my problem is, as I've said so many times, it's about the characters. And I'm just not feeling the characterization here. Like, we're not spending enough time with any one character. They're kind of just doing fan service here. Hey, this fan service character. Check out this character who's a zombie now. And check out this character who's a good guy. And, we're kind of like, we're just not. I've watched 60 minutes so far, and any one character has only gotten about, 15 minutes of screen time, maybe 20. Maybe a little bit more, but I guess Miss Marvel. I think that's who it is. Miss Marvel is Camila Khan or whatever. Has maybe gotten the most screen time, and Shang Li, whatever his name is, he's gotten maybe the second most screen time, and he's only been in one episode. I don't know. I'm not connecting with the characters, and for me, it's all about the characters, right? Like I said it so many times, and it is. It's not plot. It's not fan service. It's not, cool animation. I mean, there is cool animation here. There's been some great fights. I love zombie superheroes. That's a great concept. I would love to see other things like this, like zombie Star Trek, zombie Star Wars. I would love a what if the Emperor and Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi were zombies. What would that look like? What would that be like? That would be interesting, right? Zombie SG-1, Stargate SG-1, any of the zombie X-Files. I think they probably had a zombie episode or two, but main characters turned into zombies as a parallel universe thing. I love that shit. So it's checking a lot of boxes for me, but there's nobody to connect to and relate to, and it's just maybe if I'd seen the Miss Marvel series, that'd be different, and maybe that's what they're counting on. So yeah, just with what I've seen and what I haven't seen, it's just not clicking for me. I'm going to watch the other 2 episodes. And then I'll come back for a wrap-up next podcast, because I'll have done it by then for sure. So we'll continue this conversation there. But to this point, it's like a 6 out of 10 for me. Curious to know what you think. All right, let's get to the hot take. Now, it's kind of interesting. For the people on Patreon, we'll be able to experience these back-to-back. This hot take kind of goes a little bit with the hot take and some of the things I talked about in the Out of Time podcast. But also, this is its own thing. Unfinished stories don't automatically suck. Now, I've given A Song of Ice and Fire a lot of shit. I've given George R. R. Martin 77 years ass old. Old, with emphasis, capital OLD, old. 77. Can you imagine being 77 years old? I'm a young duckling compared to 77. I'm not as close to 77 as you think I am, you son of a bitch. I know some of you call me grandpa and shit. No. I'm not that old. 77 is fucking old. This will raise your blood pressure. It is. It is old as hell. So, that's old. I'm not old. I know I give A Song of Ice and Fire a lot of shit, but there was an interesting video I saw recently from Bookborn, I think her name is. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have a sucky ending, an ending that sucks? Or would you rather have the story be unfinished? Because Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire kind of has both. You have the TV series with a suck-ass ending. And you have the book series, which will never be finished. Which is better? There's other examples. There's some kind of fantasy trilogy. He wrote the first 2 books, and he spent 13 years. He'll never write the third, apparently. I don't remember what series that is. But the first 2 books are apparently really, really good. And I just have her word for this, but she's read the first 2, and she said it's worth reading. Because they're good stories. And in A Song of Ice and Fire, she's read the first 5 books, and they're worth reading because they're good stories. It doesn't matter, they'll never be finished. She knew it was never going to be finished when she started. And there's something to be said for that, because if you enjoy yourself, what is this all about here? Or is it just about finishing stories? Or is it about having a good time, enjoying the journey? Again, I think the journey is more important than the destination a lot of times. I know this is a writer thing to say. All writers say this. A lot of writers say it a lot. But it's true. It's about the journey, not the destination. The ending is only the final hour you spend with the story. Everything up until then is just journey. It's about passing the time, being entertained, getting a break and escape from your shitty life or the shitty world or whatever, or just maybe you have a good life, but you still enjoy stories. It's not always about being distracted from shit. Some people, I guess, have good lives. They're happy. They're well provided for. They have no real downsides to their life. They still like being entertained. They don't want to be bored. And it's entertaining, even if you get to a vague, ambiguous, or just non-ending, There's that famous poem, I think it was about Kubla Khan, where this guy had written it. He woke up from a dream and it was all in his head, so he wrote it down and just spit it out, all the verse, everything. He wrote just pages of this poem. It's just brilliant. Everything was just really working great. He was very inspired. He was on fire. He was kicking ass. Somebody knocks on the door. It's some traveler traveling from one city to another and just happening by. Says, hey, I want to hang out and talk to you for a while before I get to the next place I'm going. Talked to him for an hour. He kept trying to get rid of the guy. He couldn't get rid of the guy. Talked to him for an hour. Finally got rid of him. Goes back in there, sits back down, and his inspiration's completely gone. He was never able to write another line the rest of his life. You talk about frustration. But the poem that's there, I've read it, is really good. You still get that. We never got an ending, but that's okay. Hunter x Hunter is unfinished and will never be finished, most likely. Still a good story. What I saw was great. I won't spoil what I talk about in the other podcast, but it gets brought up there. I think highly of this series. So I don't think it matters that it will never be finished. It's still, you can enjoy the journey, and even if you never get to a destination. I'm trying to think of TV series or other anime examples. Made in Abyss, I think, got finished, but I was sponsored only for the first season in the movie, and I was told to stop, and so I did. So I will never finish that series. I'll never get the answers to the mysteries. I'll never get the answers to all the questions they raised. And I'm okay with that because I enjoyed what I got. And I have no inclination to, whatever little spare time I have, to go spend that time on, following up on what the rest of it was, even though I'm not paid for it and won't do reactions to it. I can still watch it if I want to. I have no inclination. I enjoyed what I got. It was very fun. It was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable. And then we moved on. So you don't have to finish everything. I mentioned Made in Abyss in the other podcast. Like I said, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Another thing I mentioned there was I watched reactions to Game of Thrones. But I only watch reactions up to episode 3 of season 8, and then I stop. I don't watch another drop. Not another drop comes out. I don't watch it. Because it's not great. That series starts going to shit in season 6. But there are high points. There are good moments up until episode 3 of season 8. Then the rest of it is just complete and total rancid yak shit. It is awful. Garbage. Not another second to be watched. But I watch up to that point and I have fun. I really enjoy watching reactions up to that point. A less clear example is Breaking Bad. I think season 5 is generally shit. The first 8 episodes are pretty good. And then the 9th episode, which is the second half of the season, they split the season in 2. 9th episode is really good. And then I skip everything else until episode 14. I skip 10, 11, 12, and 13. Just crap. Just not very good. And then I watch... you can watch the end of 13 and then watch 14. Really good. Skip 15 and then watch the final episode. So I do watch the end of Breaking Bad. But I skip most of the second half of season 5. Because it's garbage. So it's just slow paced and just out of, a bunch of character assassination. A bunch of shit doesn't make sense. There's kind of like they're on railroad tracks to get to their destination. So they just kind of force everything in there. Fortunately, they stick to landing with the final episode. But that doesn't really count because we're kind of, we do get an ending there. I'm trying to, I guess I haven't really seen much else. Berserk, I guess, never got finished. But that's such a short series. And what you get is like a pretty much a complete story in the first 24 episodes. So that's pretty good. There must be other examples, though, of stories and anime who don't get finished. 4400 is a good example, actually, now that I think about it. It's not anime, it's live action. They don't get to finish their story. They only tell the story up to a certain point, and they got canceled after 4 seasons, and then that's it. That's all we got. But it was good. Like, it was really good. I really enjoyed every step of the way. The last season was my favorite season. The last season was fantastic. A lot of interesting shit was happening. And then we get to the ending, we get to a cliffhanger, and then that's it. Nothing else. That's all we get. So, it's you don't have to have an ending to everything. I don't think everything has to have an ending to be good. Now, some unfinished works are trash, but they were probably trash before they got to that. I'm trying to think of a good example of something that didn't get finished that is really detrimental that it didn't get finished. Because like 4400 is you can pretty much take it as a complete story. You can kind of like extrapolate what might happen from there, and that's fine. I'm sure fan fiction has done that. But there are some things that are so incomplete, or they just got canceled at the worst possible time, that you really can't extrapolate, and there's no way to really reconcile everything. And so, that kind of sucks. There's just series that can run too long. I think Smallville ran about 3 seasons too long, and to the detriment of the series. So that's another show where you just need to know where to stop. It's like, okay, goddamn, like, enough. I've had enough. I can't take anymore. So, X-Files probably same thing. So you could say that maybe something can go on for too long, and that's just as bad as not going on for long enough. But I'll pose the question to you. Is it better to have a shitty ending or to have no ending at all? Which would you rather have for your favorite show? Say we could talk about One Piece, for instance. A lot of people here like One Piece. Would you rather the author stop now, or we get a really shitty ending? Which would you rather have? Some people have said, like they answered her in the comments with Bookborn, with her video where she was talking about Song of Ice and Fire. Hey, a shitty ending is at least an ending. It's better than nothing. I don't agree. I think I'd rather have no ending at all than have a shitty ending. If Attack on Titan had stopped at the end of season 3 and that's all we got, I would have been happier than I am now with what we did get. So that's a clear-cut example. Boy, you didn't stick the landing. So I don't think you could just say automatically if it's unfinished it sucks ass. And I think that seems to be a prevailing sentiment out there. But I would love to hear examples of other shows that just didn't finish and probably never will. I would really love to hear shows where you think that them not finishing made the show worse. That you'd rather have a shitty ending to that show, that story, than no ending at all. I think there's rare cases where you can talk about with movies too, where they clearly were sequel baiting and they just never got to make the sequel. And maybe if they'd cut a couple of the sequel baiting scenes, it would have been better, I haven't seen The Mummy with Tom Cruise, but I've heard that's that way. They spent a lot of time setting up future movies that were never going to happen, so rather you just didn't do that, They thought they were going to be the Avengers or the Iron Man of the monster cinematic universe, and it just never happened. Nice try, though. I just realized last October I was going to do some of these shitty horror movies. There was that really, really bad vampire movie that came out last year. I think it was a Marvel movie, or it was either Marvel or DC, but it was a superhero movie, but it was shit. It was about vampires, I think. I don't remember the name of it now. I was going to do that just for shits and giggles for Halloween. I never did it. And now I don't remember what it was at all. I have no memory of it. So, I don't remember what that was. And then this year, and speaking of The Mummy and stuff like that's something I could do, because apparently that movie's really bad. But anyway, I would just love to hear if you think that there is a case where it not ending or the place where they stopped telling the story was really bad. And that they've been better off just not doing it at all. Like, I'm of the personal opinion, the V reboot series would have been better off with the season 1 ending than the season 2 ending, because it got canceled after 2 seasons. I'm of the opinion it'd been better off with the season 1 ending. And here's another example. I will say the way Dollhouse ended basically turns the entire series into shit. That'd been better off not being ended. And that happened with the 13th episode of the first season. Like, it just, where everything was going was just trash. It's just, what a stupid story decision. It's like, just horrible, man. Like, it's just bad. It's just bad. It's bad, and the showrunner should feel bad. So that's how I feel about that. So I guess those are a couple examples. But I'm more curious about the example of where it didn't finish the story, and the fact that it ended where it ended with not finishing the story made everything bad. Like, it's just, you would tell people not to even start. Do you have, because I can't think of a single example of that. I can think of an example of it just, the ending was really bad. But I can't think of any examples where it didn't end and that ruined everything. If you can think of that, let me know. One possibility is Flash Forward. They got canceled after 1 season, and the way the first season ended really is kind of trash. Like, they really needed at least a follow-up movie or something. But that whole thing was a train wreck from the beginning, so it's never going to work. But yeah, love to hear what you think on that. Okay, so now we're down to ranking current anime that I'm watching. Yu Yu's going to be at the bottom for now, simply because there's only 12 episodes left, and I'll get more excited when I finish the series. And I'll be talking next time. I will have finished the series by the next time we record. So it'll be in my finished anime section, and it'll be probably higher ranked unless they just shit the bed with the ending. It'll be higher ranked than bottom of the barrel. So we got that going on. Actually, I guess I need to put Demon Slayer in here somewhere, don't I? No, I did. Okay, yeah, here it is. Anyway, Boruto's next. Haven't watched it. I'm going to watch it in a couple days, so it's just kind of down there. Seven Deadly Sins, I think only has 4 episodes left. I think that's all we're going to get. I'm not clear on that, though, so I'm not sure. But, yeah, it's good. It's just kind of petering out. I feel like the climax was just a few episodes ago, and now what the hell are we doing? I'm not sure. The last 4 episodes are going to be very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how they resolve all this. JoJo's next. I'm starting to feel a little bogged down with this, like, mainly because, like, I didn't have time last week to record. Well, 2 weeks ago, essentially. Last week I got 2 episodes, and I just wasn't super excited, and I was going to do 2 more, and I just didn't have time, and I didn't really make the time because I wasn't excited. It's already Monday night. I want to do something this week, but am I going to have time tomorrow? That's the end of the month. I have shit to do before the end of the month. No, so I won't have time tomorrow. So it'll be Wednesday. And then Wednesday, will I give a shit? Like, hopefully. I want to see more of it, but, like, I'm a little bogged down with this season. It feels a little unfocused. I want more of a big bad. I want more of an overriding villain, and we're not getting that. You're just getting, we thought the Arrow guy was going to be the villain, but he's not. Electro Boy. So, I don't know. Like, that didn't really, like, tickle my fancy so much. It was interesting. And now we're just kind of like stumbling around, running into various people at power. So we're in a weird place in the story. So that's kind of where they're at. I guess it's number 5. Yeah. Number 4, Demon Slayer premieres. It premieres. They're like in the Billboard Hot 100. Sometimes a song will just premiere at number 1. Not so lucky here, Demon Slayer, but you're not doing bad. You premiered at 4. That's not bad. I've only seen 4 episodes. Excited to see more. And so far I like it. I like the art style. I like the characters. I was thinking I hope we would get more with the sister, but that's only the first episode and a half, I think. And she doesn't talk. Not much of a character there. So I guess really we just had the one character. But man, they had an interesting twist. I talked about it in the special podcast. Where I highlighted that series specifically. But I like it, man. I really like it a lot so far. They've had a couple of swerves and twists and turns in this first 4 episodes that I really like. So I'm in for the long haul on that one. Garden of Sinners number 3, bangers. Just I talked about that earlier in this podcast. That is a banger series. Loving the characters, loving the mystery, and I'm excited about, mainly what I am is I'm excited about what's going to happen next. I think we're moving forward in the future. I think we're going to go beyond August of 1998 to whatever's next. So, can't wait to see that. Number 2, One Piece. They're starting to wear me out with this 10-minute crap. I think we're 3 episodes into it now. I have watched 11:45 as I record this. And 6 weeks, Jesus. Don't want to wish that on us. I think we're 6 days away from the next episode. I don't think we're taking a week off yet. So, they're wearing me out, man. Like, can we get to the goddamn transmission? And we're not even halfway there yet. Like, there's still 6 minutes left after 3 episodes. So, time is really compressed. And it's hard to believe that because, for the most part, we're sticking with the Luffy. And just, if we were to just track every second of time that Luffy has spent, irregardless of anything else that's happening, because cutaways can be happening simultaneously, I think we've got more than 4 minutes to pass. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not that nitpicky. But the wearing me out, the time is moving slow as F. So, like, you know, you would be number 1 right now if you weren't doing that crap. So, that leaves Gintama. Undisputed number 1 for a while. They're killing it. Saw the movie recently. It was excellent. 3 great follow-ups. I love so much about it. Just to pick one random thing I love about it. I love that the cops have bazookas, and I love that they're not afraid to use them. Like, they're always whipping out these bazookas. And bazooka is such a bizarre weapon. Like, it's probably not actually a bazooka. It's probably an RPG, right? But whatever, man. It's like it looks like a bazooka. I'm stuck in World War II when bazookas were a thing. Probably the only time they were a thing. But, you know, it looks like a bazooka, and they're whipping out. It's a big-ass gun. It's not talking about a revolver or a rifle. It's a big-ass hand cannon shooting these big-ass projectiles and blowing shit up. And they just will not hesitate to pull that shit out and start. You talk about some collateral damage. They're collateral damaging the hell out of everything they come across. They're not afraid to destroy some shit, man. It just cracks me up. It's just such... There's so many things that's funny. So many things that's funny about that show. This is just one example. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, just blow some shit up. Alrighty, well, I guess we're down to the next podcast topic. And I'm just going to do another poll. I think we pretty much settled into that routine. I'm enjoying the last few topics have been a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to talk about our war criminal, lock his ass up. Like, we never got to talk about what his punishment should be. I think we should probably just, 20 to life, man. Like, put that subbitch, like, he only spent, about 3 days in prison? You can give him time served on 3 days. And then the rest of his sentence should be 20 to life, man. Just lock his ass up. But then he would destroy the prison and get out. So, what are you going to do? Yeah. As soon as he gets fed a decent meal, he's trashing the place. I don't care if he does have the sea prism cuffs on him. He's trashing the place. It would be interesting to see if somebody can overcome that. But that's a One Piece specific conversation I will reserve for One Piece. So we'll table that for now. As far as future topics, people don't really suggest anything in comments, but if you suggest a potential topic, we're 14 episodes. What will get me to a year of doing this? Are we at a year? It's every 2 weeks, so 25. Episode 25, 26, I've been doing this for an entire year. So, only the first few episodes where people suggesting potential topics, but I know it's hard to come up with, believe me, I struggle sometimes too to come up with potential topics. But if you think of something that you'd love to see me talk about, feel free to do it. So, also, I'm recording out of order. Typically I record the feedback first. So, if it's possible somebody's left a potential topic in the feedback, normally I would know the answer to that because I would have already recorded my answers and talking about every single comment that was left. But in this case, I wanted to go ahead and knock out both podcasts back to back. Just be done with that part of it. and then do the easy shit tomorrow, and actually have this as early access for a day or two, because the Q&A is always easier. So, as far as I know, nobody suggests anything. If you think of a banger idea, definitely put it in there, and I'll take credit for it. Until next time, or until you go to the Patreon and check out the bonus podcast, I'll see you next time.
This will raise your blood pressure.